guidance to you. Listen to FLA Law each Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Let their decades of experience help you and your family. Offices in Clearwater, non-attorney spokesman.
This is the radio program Spectrum 360. This is Mark Skogman
and TK Weeks.
Hosts of Spectrum 360 on the 6 stations of the TAN Talk Radio Network. Spectrum 360 is a talk radio program that features politics, the arts, and popular culture from a progressive point of view. Spectrum 360 broadcasts for 1 hour weekly on Monday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern Time and anytime via webcast at spectrum360media.com. Remember, Spectrum 360, news, politics, and arts from a creative and progressive point of view.
Tune in to the Shrink and Wrap Show here on TAN Talk Radio.
Our stories and our topics will include, but are not limited to, everyday issues. We're here for you, for our listeners. We want to know what's important to you.
So again, don't miss us
on TAN Talk Radio. Tune in again, Shrink and Wrap Show.
We'll see you then.
That's the Shrink and Wrap Show every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. right here on the TAN Talk Radio Network.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
It's time for the Kelly Show. Kelly is an award-winning photographer and the owner of the website iloveclearwater.com. Doug is the author of 4 published books and a contributing editor for Florida Sportsman magazine. And now, here they are.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today on the Kelly Show. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, as Big Ed Davis just said. Ed is, of course, the executive producer of the TAN Talk Radio Network and operating in the control room today. So we thank Ed for that. And we have a very interesting show today. You really want to stick with us all the way to the end, especially if you believe in the importance of law enforcement and how it affects us all in one way or another. One thing I want to ask Big Ed is, what do you think is the prospects of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after the draft and free agency and all that stuff?
Well, you mean as a whole going into the season?
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think they're going to have a great season, average, rebuilding?
I learned a long time ago that there are people that may predict the future, and I'm not one of them.
I see. Okay.
And I have sat many years outside Tampa Stadium, the old one, in the years of going 3-0 and 4-0 in the preseason and winning 2 games the entire year.
Oh, wow.
I've seen the Super Bowl run. I've seen bad years. So, injuries are always a factor. You got big dates coming up. Yep. You've got mini camps coming up. Then you got the regular training camp coming up. That's when injuries happen and stuff like that. And that could change the course of a team in a minute. Yep. So
absolutely,
you gotta hope and pray that everybody stays healthy and, the schedule works. And you could have one of the worst schedules, the hardest schedule in the league. And some of those teams you're about to play have major injuries and changes the whole course of the game before you even play it. So, have they done their homework? Yeah, they always do their homework. We only have one team that doesn't do homework. That's a professional team in the area.
The Bulls.
No, somebody else. Team, huh? It involves a ball and a bat.
Okay. But, the old Rays, the old Devil Rays.
Yeah. So that's just ownership problems. But anyway, no. I just wait and see. You can't. I have faith in the organization. I'll put it that way. So
very good. Couldn't you just said we'll wait and see?
We'll wait and see.
They could have.
I could also rub a lamp too. It's just not going to work.
No, that was a very good explanation. And you're right. It's a dangerous slope there. Slippery slope.
Well, you get all those magazines. These get, the magazines that are on if there are any magazine, I might be dating myself. They're next to the yellow pages on the wall. But the magazines that are out that tell you, or the digital, whatever, that have these predictions. Oh, this team's going to be this and this. Come on,
Yeah, I know. Well, they have to sell copies. What can you do? Make predictions and have their stars on the covers and all that.
We used to call it selling magazines. Now I think it's called clickbait.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called now?
Pretty much.
Click, how many times you click on the story, they get paid?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Cal, Why don't we talk a little bit about how important law enforcement is, and then let's introduce our guest.
It's important.
Yes,
How's that?
that's too long. Please shorten
No,
your
it
answer.
is important. What would we do without law enforcement?
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's
It would be chaos.
it would be.
It would be.
Yeah, a lawless society is exactly that.
Mm.
So anyway,
Are there any societies that exist right now that are lawless?
let me check and see. I'll get back to you on
Okay. All right. Awesome. But we have a great guest today, Major Nate Burnside of the Clearwater Police Department's command staff. And I don't even know what command staff is. So welcome to the show, Major.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
that. Great, fantastic.
Let's start by asking him what a command staff is.
Go right ahead.
Are you kidding me?
What's a command staff?
So your command staff is basically your executive level of the organization. They play a critical role, obviously, with the leadership, setting strategic direction, ensuring operational effectiveness, and maintaining accountability across the agency. So currently, our command staff is made up of 5 members. Obviously, the chief of police, Eric Gandy, being one of them, his deputy chief, which is Deputy Chief Mike Wallach, and then 3 majors. So of those 3 majors, we're broken down, and we have command responsibilities over 3 different divisions within the department.
Gotcha.
So, okay, so it's just each division is a group
Correct.
of officers.
Personnel. So it's not
Personnel.
just, yes, that's correct. We have non-sworn, obviously our civilians, and our sworn personnel that fall under our command.
Okay.
Can you read us your list of informants?
Top secret.
Yeah,
Top
that's
secret.
right. That's right.
Do they have that still?
We still-
Okay, all right. Well, I didn't know. I thought, things evolved. Okay, so how do you contribute as a major?
So my role as a major is basically just both strategical and operational. I guess that would be the best way to put it. So I'm responsible for leading my division, ensuring that the daily operations are met of the department's objectives, and then obviously supervising my command and monitoring performance metrics, managing budgets, obviously addressing internal and external concerns, and then ultimately making sure that I'm mentoring and developing the next leaders to come up through the organization.
Okay, that's a great answer.
And you keep up with technology, I'm sure, for all the new things that may come along that aid law enforcement.
We do. Yes. Yes.
Okay. I
Okay.
would expect so.
Do you offhand know how big the department is?
Yes. So basically, we have 263 sworn employees.
Okay.
So then we have obviously non-sworn employees, our civilian, our support staff. All that comprised makes up about 442 personnel. So that's basically our part-time employees, obviously our civilian full-time employees, and our sworn staff.
Mhm.
Give an example of what a civilian would do on the force.
So are you talking about out on the road or inside the department?
No, I don't know. I
So-
know nothing. I don't know. I didn't even know really that civilians even contributed. So
Yeah, so out on the road, we actually have civilian personnel, and they basically kind of do more of our civil things as far as like investigating traffic crashes.
oh,
They'll go out there, they'll take property reports. So if somebody possibly lost a wallet or we found a bike or something like that, they'll go out there, they'll take that property, collect it, and then put it in for safekeeping. But on the internal side, we have a lot of support staff that obviously helps out with finance records. All of our dispatchers, those are all non-sworn employees.
okay.
So
And are
civilian
they
employees.
volunteers or are they paid?
No, they're all paid.
Okay.
We do have a volunteer program.
Oh.
So we have a couple volunteers, and they help out around the department with just routine errands. They help down in property as far as like uniform distributing, collecting some mail. They do odds and ends around the department.
Okay.
All right. How does a department measure leadership and accountability and effectiveness within the staff?
Well, to be honest with you, that's our most important aspect of the job. So, I mean, as command staff members, we have multiple responsibilities. And as far as we go, we're evaluated on the way that we manage our personnel. I mean, obviously our budget, and then operational readiness, and through obviously our problem solving. I mean, that's pretty much what the chief leans on us for, is kind of those unique situations that pop up. How fast, efficiently do we handle those situations with our personnel?
Who sets the budget? The chief makes a proposal to the city council? Is that how that works, or the city manager?
It's a multi-level process, and
Uh-huh.
obviously for that's, it's checks and balances.
Mhm.
So it's not just the chief. Obviously he provides his insight through the majors.
Mhm.
So we provide obviously what our budget needs to be for each one of our respective divisions. And then, I'm sorry. So we provide our budget to each one of our respective divisions, and then that's presented to the chief. The chief will go to obviously our finance department, work with our finance department, obviously his boss, which is the city manager, and then together they'll come up with our budget, which is ultimately presented to city council, and then city
Okay.
council approves the budget.
I just thought of another question. Sorry. The regions, are they just certain areas of the city? Like you probably have an east, a west, and a beach, I'm guessing.
We do. So the police department has split up the city in 3 different districts, is what
Mhm.
we call them. So our District 1 is obviously our beach area.
Mhm.
And then our District 2 would be basically our downtown area. And our District 3 is out in the countryside area.
Okay.
And that runs all the way, obviously, from the beach all the way to the bay over in Tampa.
Spring break must be fun for you guys.
And it always is.
Yeah. Sit down and watch the show, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've had a pretty successful spring break over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Good.
So, yeah.
Good. No
It's
major
been a lot better.
problems.
No major problems. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Okay, so I'm going to get into just a touchy subject, but
Okay.
the only reason I'm bringing it up is because a couple of people brought it up to me. So, how does the Clearwater Police Department currently interact with federal immigration enforcement, such as ICE?
Which is ICE.
Yes, exactly. So basically, we've always partnered with our federal law enforcement counterparts, and we've supported obviously Department of Homeland Security and ICE. So upon their request, however, we have never been able to enforce federal immigration laws. So obviously, this past year, there was a 287G memorandum of understanding that was basically sent out through ICE to all local police departments. We haven't received any training on that. We're assuming that it's forthcoming, but as the present stance, we're really not enforcing any type of immigration laws.
Okay.
So my understanding of the 287G is basically that it's not that we're going to go out there and seek individuals. It's more when we come across somebody that might be an illegal immigrant or they're wanted by ICE.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like when they have like a warrant or a detainer that's been issued by ICE and we come across them for some other type of criminal offense.
Okay.
And,
Or
you,
civil
and you
offense.
notify that agency, they can take action.
Correct. I mean, the 287 would give us the ability to do that, but
Oh.
like I said, we're not trained in that.
I see.
So I'm assuming that's going to be forthcoming, obviously passed down from the federal government to the state to us. But as it stands right now, our practices really haven't changed.
Okay. So that's a good explanation.
One interesting point, if I could make it,
Mhm.
and that is there's a lot of upward mobility, it seems to be, in the Clearwater Police Department by nature of Dan Slaughter. Dan was a chief, and now he's with the city as an assistant city manager.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
And I think Eric, before he stepped back into the picture, left to go to the aviation
Mm-hmm.
and marine department.
Correct. As a director.
So,
Yes.
yeah, as a director. So that's great that you have that crossover ability
Mhm.
in the same department.
It is. And I mean, we were very fortunate to have Chief Gandy obviously come back and step into that role.
Right.
I mean, obviously that was a lot of leadership and institutional knowledge that left, obviously when Chief Slaughter left, but obviously prior to that, when Chief Gandy left. So the fact that he was able to come back and continue mentoring us, it's definitely helping us.
Plus, he's a pretty nice guy.
He's a
Yeah.
pretty nice guy. That's
He
right.
Both of
really
them
is.
are. Yeah.
He really is.
Okay. So I'm going to switch gears a little. The Clearwater ferry boat accident. Can you provide any updates on that? They're probably still investigating, right?
They are still investigating. So, I mean, it was obviously a combined effort between FWC, which is the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, and the United States Coast Guard, along with us and the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. So as far as like the law enforcement response, that was all those agencies combined. In addition to that, we also had Clearwater Fire Rescue, who were unbelievable that night.
Mhm.
So obviously all of us partnering together, it was tragic. I was at my house, obviously, when it happened. I was off for the night and got the phone call and I immediately came in. and to go down there and see what those individuals were experiencing was awful. But I can tell you, for the situation itself, how large it was, and the fact that you had these boats that were out in the water, and the way that it was all controlled by all the first responders, I think it really brought a sense of calmness to the individuals that were actually just experienced that traumatic event. Mm-hmm. So all of our officers were very obviously empathetic. We got them all the first aid that they needed right then and there. It was unfortunate, obviously, of one of the individuals passing, Jose Castro. But I mean, for the amount of resources that it took that night, I can tell you, it made me pretty proud as a first responder. It's hard to be proud in like those type of situations, but just seeing like somewhat of a relief or smile on somebody's face coming off that boat, you know, it was a warm place in my heart to actually see that.
Yeah.
So
I was reminded, unfortunately, of an incident that happened. I believe it was late 80s, early 90s. The Indian Rocks area around the bridge on the Intercoastal. There was a watering hole there called Melons, and a chiropractor and his entourage in a cigarette boat left there and didn't see some kids in a small boat underneath the bridge and ran right over the top. I believe 3 or 4 at least perished in that one. So, and that reminded me of that whole thing.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of people
same situation, just didn't see him and went right over the top of them.
Yeah.
So,
those cigarette boats can sometimes be more trouble than they're worth.
Yeah.
Well, that and you mixed alcohol involved in that too, and then you know he paid the price too. So
you know, a lot of people don't separate that. You know, you don't want drunks on the highway. Why would you want drunks on the waterways?
Yeah, it's very easy with these. With these bars that have docks in them.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you got to be a designated driver on the boat too. You can't just have a few drinks and hop in the boat.
Yeah, you can't take it lightly. And you got divers, some who don't use dive flags.
Yeah.
And,
but there was no alcohol involved in the ferry accident, I understand, right? There was his blood level, the driver of the boat that hit the ferry was negative for alcohol. That's what I heard.
Yes, that is one of the reports that the FWC did put out, that he was cooperative and that he had given a breath sample that night. And that breath sample revealed triple zeros is what we call it in our industry, but zeros across the board.
Oh, very good. Yes. Okay. I don't know. Can I ask, was the ferry properly lit?
So that's probably a better question for the United States Coast Guard.
Okay.
I know that they are doing a very detailed examination of that boat. In fact, I spoke with one of the investigators the next day, and he had been on that boat for several hours through the night. So I'm very curious myself to obviously read that report once it's released.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be weeks or months
investigation.
even before final report comes out.
Does the Clearwater Police have a Marine unit?
We do.
How does one get that job?
It's a pretty good job.
What do you have to know?
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes, as one of our previous sergeants indicated a couple of years ago, who happened to work out there, he said like working at the Clearwater Police Department was like hitting the lottery. And he happened to be assigned to that unit. So
Smart
man.
That would be a plum job for me.
You have a canine division too, right?
Yeah.
We do. We have a great canine division. So that's my pride and passion. I was a canine handler back in the day. But,
and you take the dog home, right?
I did. Yes. He's unfortunately passed away.
Oh. And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
when
it's
that
a
happens.
family member.
It is. You become very attached to obviously your pet.
It's soulful.
Yes. I mean, you know, obviously it's a tool, right? But the bond that you create with that dog, I can tell you when he passed away, I was in tears.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Same with our last dog.
Yeah.
We were sobbing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Not crying, sobbing.
You don't want me in tears right now.
Anyway.
You know, the show must go on here. So we're going to switch gears again to crime trends and public safety. Is crime currently trending up or down in Clearwater, and what data supports that?
So fortunately, crime is trending down.
Good.
As far as major crime goes, it's currently down in Clearwater. Robbery rates are down 40% compared to
that's huge.
Yes, so the first quarter of 2024. Burglaries down 10% during that same time frame. Auto thefts are down by 35%. Our sex crimes are up by 5%. And that's basically we've had one additional crime. Obviously, not to take away the sensitivity or severity of that crime, but it did rise by one.
Mm-hmm.
But altogether, I mean, we're down across the board.
What do you attribute that to?
To be honest with you, I think it all goes to proactivity. So we were in a place for obviously a couple of years through COVID, which nobody wants to talk about anymore. But during the COVID time, our interactions with individuals backed off. So you didn't see officers out there being very proactive or aggressive. And now our officers are out there, they're in the community, they're doing extra patrols, they're, conducting traffic enforcement. You out there see them stopping individuals in the middle of the night. So I think all that just lends to obviously the crime rate coming down. But in addition to that, when our officers are out there conducting traffic enforcement along the side of the road, it's not necessarily indicating that individual is receiving a ticket, right? Mm-hmm. But the 50 speeders behind them slow down. Right?
This is true. This is true.
Yeah. So those officers being out there and obviously taking that approach towards like traffic enforcement, it really deters crime around the whole city.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. Absolutely. Whenever you see a blue light or you see the red lights too, and you immediately have to be on the alert.
Right.
Give them the right of way, move over if you have to, if you can.
Yes.
And anything. I'm sure you break down the reports on crime by certain things, such as maybe age groups or what have you.
We do.
Teenagers. Mm-hmm. Have you seen a rise in youth-oriented crimes, or pretty much static or dropped?
No, they've stayed pretty much the same across the years. In fact, they have stayed the same across the years. I mean, we do see like a little bit of an uptick, especially around the spring break, summertime,
right.
When the kids are outside of school. They tend to have, a couple fights here and there. So, I mean, it's more of like battery reports. I mean, we did have some juveniles that were breaking into unlocked vehicles.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That was in our neighborhood too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So I know that they were locking your car.
Yeah.
Lock your damn car.
That's right.
Don't leave a weapon in your car.
No, and that's the biggest thing is the weapons. Yeah. So obviously, listen, I mean, we're individuals, like everybody's going to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, I'm sure on one occasion I've left my car door unlocked. However, when it comes to weapons, that's a completely separate subject. Mm-hmm. And you have to be a responsible firearm owner.
Absolutely.
So you should not be leaving your firearm unsecured inside your car. Mm-hmm. Is the bottom line. That needs to be in home inside of a safe.
Hey, you brought up spring break, and I always cringe when that's that time of year, as you guys do. But I look at it like an offensive line in football. If you don't hear about it, you guys must be doing your job, because you look at other cities that have so many problems when spring break rolls, and we keep building new hotels. I mean, the Opal Sands just opened a whole nother one. So I guarantee you next year is going to be even bigger than this year with spring break and everything. But that and it's not Miami Beach where you get that long drive that can spread people out. Clearwater Beach is kind of confined to an area where they can hang out, and a lot of stuff happens when kids have too much time on their hands and whatnot. But it's been very quiet. I mean, guys, testament to you guys doing your jobs out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I mean, obviously every spring break we increase our staffing levels out there. So you've probably seen over the last couple of years, obviously all of our police vehicles out on the main thoroughfares, lights on, letting everybody know that we are there. Mm-hmm. We do stay ahead of obviously the drinking on the beach. So our officers are very aggressive when it comes to open alcohol on the beach. Mm-hmm. Quite a few tourists, they get caught up in that as well. Mm-hmm. So they come down here from Michigan or wherever where they're able to drink out on their beaches, come down here and they're like, wait, I can't enjoy a beer on the beach? Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. Yeah. So, and that's one of the reasons why we don't want drinking on the beach, is because all the other crime that comes along with that.
For sure.
So we like it to market ourselves as a family-friendly beach.
Absolutely.
Is the bottom line.
And I like that.
Yeah. And as far as the kids go, I mean, it's just really us making a positive encounter with those kids. So when we do see a group of kids out there, our officers go up and they talk to them. just say hi. We try not to be like overly aggressive with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it could come to that, you know, if they want to violate our local ordinances and our laws, obviously our state laws, but we try to have that positive interaction with them. And that seems to help too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a friendly approach with them.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
honey attracts more flies, as they say, than vinegar.
It's true.
So it's best to go up to a group and, not glad hand them, but just to let them know you're not the enemy.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So as long as you're not violating, obviously, the ordinances and the laws, then
Yeah.
you're
And these kids too, a lot of them are 18, 19 years old. They're not even 21 in some cases. And mom and dad are back in Ohio. So they some of them get carried away.
Yeah.
They do. And we have individuals, that come into our area from other jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
So this happened to be like the Ocala area for some reason. Ocala, a bunch of kids came down here during the start of spring break and got a couple issues with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're bringing guns with them to the beach. And, and our officers, they got on them pretty quick. And so we seized several guns off the beach from the juveniles and we're able to lock them up and say, we're not going to tolerate it.
Wow.
So we're all about them coming down here and having a great time. We want to see that. But obviously that criminal element that comes with it, there's absolutely no room for it whatsoever.
Now, you brought up a good point, Doug. The community relations. You still have that coffee with a cop.
We do.
Then you go into schools and that helps too.
Ride-alongs.
We do. Yes, the ride-alongs too. We've suspended the ride-along program over the past couple of years. And it's only because we have so many recruits or individuals that we're trying to hire right now that they're actually taking up a lot of that time. So we require individuals that are seeking a job in law enforcement. We actually make them go out and do a ride along just to kind of let them know like, hey, this is what you're getting yourself into. So a lot of our individuals that take ride alongs are kind of preoccupied with that right now.
I did a ride along years and years ago when I was writing for a newspaper.
Yeah.
And the officer, a female officer, we went up next to a playground. There's a bunch of kids there, and you could sort of see them freeze a little bit. She stopped, was friendly, cordial. How you guys doing today? Anything I can do to help you out? Let me know. I mean, really good community relations. Now, I don't know if that was because she knew I was a writer, but I don't think so. I got the impression in all my dealings with the police department over the years, I've been pulled over, for rolling through a stop sign or doing something like that. And they're always professional. I haven't met one really person who wasn't suited for the job.
I appreciate that. I mean, listen, I know that those officers are out there. Obviously, we've had a couple internally.
Sure.
But the bottom line is the majority of our force is just exactly how you describe them.
Yeah.
They want to go out there. They want to do a great job. Do those officers make mistakes, honest mistakes? Yes, they do.
Sure.
Absolutely. Are there officers out there that are bad? Yes. And we've gotten rid of those officers. So, I mean, we do try our best to flush them out. I just took over, obviously, the patrol division about 3 years ago. And it's one thing that, I've spoken to all my officers about. It's all about community policing. It was the way that I was raised coming up through the police department. I was part of the North Greenwood neighborhood patrol team, and it was all about the community. So it was all about stopping, speaking with individuals, walking down the street, having a conversation with them up on the front porch, helping the old lady take the trash can to the side of their house, changing the flat tire. It's all been about that. And that's how I was brought up.
And people remember that.
They do.
Forever.
For years. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I mean, with the exception of a couple of arrests that I can remember, I have more of the positive interactions that I can remember as opposed to arresting an individual. Those conversations that I've had on somebody's front porch, that's stuff that will stick with me forever. Or, going to a house and having a conversation with a child and his parent because the child was, maybe getting a little out of hand with the parents and sitting down and having a positive relationship and just talking back and forth with that child. Those are the things that I remember. Doing the mentoring program at the schools, during their lunchtime. That's all stuff that I want to take away from this job.
Does that still occur?
It does. We still have some officers that do that.
Okay.
We do.
All right. Well, this is really interesting. We got a lot more to go too. So stick with us. We'll be back right after these important messages.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
Shop the largest selection of Guy Harvey apparel, artwork, and gift items at guyharvey.com. From the world-renowned marine wildlife artist, the Guy Harvey online shop features the latest in performance apparel, classic Guy Harvey t-shirts, decor for every room in your home, exquisite ocean-inspired jewelry, and unique gift items, including custom merchandise not available anyplace else. Browse an extensive catalog of original Guy Harvey works of art and a full range of beautiful reproductions. As with all Guy Harvey merchandise, a percentage of sales benefits the ocean conservation, research, and education work of the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation will help ensure that future generations can enjoy and benefit from a well-balanced ocean ecosystem. Bring the undersea world into your everyday life at guyharvey.com.
Just about everyone is fascinated by the mafia. Books and movies like The Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, and many others became bestsellers and box office hits. Did you know that a century ago, mobsters like Al Capone discovered Florida's tropical climate and sparse law enforcement? Mafia bosses from around the nation began setting up illegal operations in Florida. Now, for the first time, a new book titled Sunshine State Mafia, A History of Florida's Mobsters, Hitmen, and Wise Guys provides vivid stories and never-before-seen images of dangerous criminals who settled in Florida full or part-time. Written by renowned author Doug Kelly, Sunshine State Mafia exposes the hidden history of the mob throughout the state and includes Doug's own brushes with crime figures. Sunshine State Mafia is available at all major book retailers, or obtain a signed copy by calling 727-724-4949 or email sunshinestatemafia@gmail.com.
What do the most successful companies have in common? They leverage growth by forming valuable relationships and partnerships. Amplify Clearwater puts you in touch with accomplished business and community leaders that inspires networking and helps you navigate the best courses of action for your company. Become a member and instantly acquire a powerful edge over your competitors by forming strong connections with top business leaders and elected officials. Amplify Clearwater. One community, one chamber, one vision. Contact us at amplifyclearwater.com or call 727-461-0011. That's amplifyclearwater.com. 727-461-0011.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Kelly Kelly Show. I'm Kelly Kelly. I'm here with my better half, Doug Kelly,
Hey.
and also Major Nate Burnside of the Clearwater Police Department command staff. And we are discussing a whole bunch of interesting things. But what's our next question?
Well, one of them here is,
Okay.
how does the department partner with environmental or scientific agencies that come down and want to do studies and such? I think the FWC, Fish and Wildlife Commission, is currently planning that or doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with any upcoming studies that they're doing, but they're always routinely out there checking, obviously, for red tide, like bacteria levels, obviously seagrass health, sea life population, and then obviously fishery regulations. They're commonly down at Seminole docks, checking license when people come in. And they're always doing like studies and counts to see like what exactly is in the fish box when they arrive there. So we're down there, we help them out as well. But in addition to that, I mean, we've always kind of like volunteered and assisted the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. We actually started a program with them probably about 5 6 years ago. And it was basically law enforcement response to rescuing animals. So basically what we do is we're a component to their rescue team, and we'll go out there and either escort and or retrieve animals for them. And our Marine unit's part of that. And most of that training has to do obviously with safety for not only us, but obviously for the animals as well. There's certain ways that we can only touch the animals. Believe it or not, there's a lot of bacteria that's on animals that can be transferred to us as humans. So we always tell like obviously our tourists out on the beach, like if an animal does happen to wash up, don't touch it. Let us come and do it. So there's certain areas where we want to touch to make sure that we don't obviously provide any more trauma to the animal and or either give or receive bacteria from that individual or from that animal.
I'm guessing that also applies not only to the marine animals, but animals in woods.
Yeah, animals in woods too. So we come across a lot of birds, that are injured.
Okay.
So we work with the Suncoast Seabird Sanctuary and the Audubon Society. Obviously.
Any alligator incidents recently?
We have, yes. Yeah. The officers are very prideful when it comes to talking about rescue or capturing an alligator. So
he said offhandedly.
Yes, might have come across one in the past, but yeah, they always find it fun to go wrestle the alligators and bring them back to a safe pond.
I'm not sure I'd find that fun, but okay.
Some officers do. Some officers are definitely afraid to stay away from them.
Okay. Is there an area, Clearwater, that may have more alligators than normal?
By far, the countryside area.
Countryside. Interesting.
Yes, we get a lot of calls out there as far as alligators go.
Okay.
Just
Don't
with so many
feed the
ponds and lakes.
dadgum alligators, right?
Well, when the water level drops, the gators they come out.
Yeah.
There's really no place for them to go. So
that's true.
All
okay.
right.
So what training does the CPD receive to prepare for ecological or marine related incidents? Do you have training in this or not really?
Not really. I mean, obviously our training comes through the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, the program that I described. But besides that, we really have no other training except for our Marine officers that really receive anything.
The Marine officers, how many are there?
So we have 2 full-time captains.
2?
Yes.
Okay.
So they operate on 12-hour shifts. So they're out there 7 days a week, depending on obviously their days off. But in addition to that, we have about 12 of their deckhands, as we call them. And so they'll be out there with the Marine captain, obviously patrolling the waterways.
Okay.
Are they allowed to bring a fishing rod with them?
No, they are not.
I know that's taboo. Yeah.
That is.
Or at least someone's coming, throw it overboard.
Right.
Okay. Does the department plan to restart or expand its police-community relations group in 2025?
So, I mean, obviously, this is a very sensitive subject, and that really has to do with obviously our current staffing levels. Our staffing levels are obviously down right now. We're in the process of recruiting. We're still in a stable place, but we're not at full capacity, which is where I'd love to be. Obviously, with our retention rate and our turnover rate. Those numbers tend to fluctuate. Obviously, with officers getting injured and or that are maybe on pregnancy leave right now. But, with all that combined, it's been really hard to obviously support some of the specialty teams that we'd want to.
Okay.
So, I mean, as far as like community-oriented or community relations go, our community engagement team is probably the team that works most closely with our non-governmental partners and organizations. But in addition to that, we do have community policing teams out there that are assigned to the downtown area. So they're more working with the business owners, where our community engagement team, they're working with obviously our non-governmental organizations and partners, like United Way, obviously being one of them.
Okay.
Do you already have in place or have any ideas about how you handle mental health related people? Someone who might, suffer from some sort of mental condition. Is that prevalent or not so much? Or
No, it's very prevalent.
is it?
Really?
Yes. So we do handle quite a few calls like that. And I mean, I can tell you from my own personal experience and working closely with the officers, there's a large group of officers out there that are very passionate about mental health. It's either they've come across a call for service that might have stuck with them in the way the interaction went, or they've dealt with family members or loved ones themselves and have experienced that. So obviously very compassionate, empathetic on that side of it. And through that, we've started a couple of initiatives. So one is partnered with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office and the Largo Police Department. And it's called our Mental Health Unit Response Team. And basically it's a co-responder team. So it's an officer who obviously is in full uniform. And then it's a specialist, a behavioral health specialist that rides with them. And they're a co-responder unit. So they'll go to those type of calls and provide the resources necessary for that individual to get help. I mean, the whole point of the program is basically for, an officer to not just go out there, get in some type of violent confrontation because that individual might pose a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And then that turns into a use of force or, God forbid, some type of deadly force or something like that when this individual just needs help, mental health help. So that model of the co-responder has been working extremely well.
Yeah, because
So
they're trained. That partner is trained.
they are.
Yeah.
And our officers are trained too, but sometimes they don't want to see an officer in full uniform.
Sure.
Now, obviously, we need to be there and provide protection for that individual doesn't have any, that's unarmed. But it does work out really well.
Very good.
So you almost see them engaging the officer more with that co-responder model because they're seeing somebody there that, that they can probably relate to a little bit easier, and then seeing the officer as well.
Well, that's very good news.
I would think too, if you're trying to talk somebody out of a suicide attempt, you better know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sure.
And it's not always just that. I mean, we do come across those calls where individuals will, call us on 911 and say, I'm going to end my life and I'm over here at this location, and then don't give us any other details, which obviously is very concerning for an officer to go up on a scene, not knowing if they're armed or not. But a lot of them are just individuals that are just experiencing some type of just crisis in the moment. Not necessarily that they want to kill themselves, but more so just
they need help,
just in rage,
Yeah.
And us going there and trying to calm them down sometimes turns into a violent encounter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it could be just their prescription's off, or there's something that triggered them to have that type of episode. So, I mean, our officers are trained. We send pretty much all of our officers through a program called critical intervention training. And it's designed to de-escalate those type of situations, especially with those that are experiencing those mental health, issues. Sure. So we really do try our best to de-escalate the situation before it gets out of hand.
I guess the domestic violence calls are some of the worst ones, or can be.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
So in the state of Florida, we have, we really try to make an arrest. So by state statute and by our current policy, what we do is we'll figure out who the offender is, the aggressive offender, and it's the preferred arrest policy, as we call it, to arrest that individual, to take them out of the equation for the evening. That gives them time to cool down, right, and cool off, and then obviously get them the help that they need through the criminal justice system. But sometimes when you arrive at those domestic violence situations, and you go to arrest one of the partners, the other partner realizes real quick that they don't want that individual to go to jail, and then all of a sudden you have two people that turn on you.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Oh, wow.
So
I've heard that.
yes, that happens quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, they're calling for help, and then when help arrives, they're begging him not to arrest him.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
Okay, so we're gonna switch gears again to technology.
Yep. All right. Has the department expanded its use of the cameras, body cameras, and other type of technology, surveillance technology?
Yes, we have. We've increased, expanded it. So we run what's called a real-time operations center. We refer to it as the ROC. But basically, the ROC monitors calls for service. So they'll listen to the 911 calls come in. They'll get as much information as they can, and they'll do like a lot of background and research for the officer as the officer's responding to the call, because he or she needs to worry about driving, right?
Huh.
So what they'll do is they'll do the research at their desk and then provide that information in the call for service notes, so the officer can read it before he or she gets outside the
Is that
vehicle.
basically past arrests or
It's
do
a
a
combination of a
background
lot of
check, or-
things. Yeah. So it could be background checks, but
Mhm.
mostly what it involves is obviously past arrests, any type of flags that we might have on the individual, if they're not friendly towards law enforcement, or if we've had a confrontation with them in the past, or if they're experiencing some type of mental health issue or illness in the past. So that kind of stuff will come up, and they'll let the officer know when he or she arrives. But one of the components that they use is obviously video surveillance cameras. So they have access to not only our publicly owned cameras, but also to some privately owned ones that we have agreements with at certain businesses like banks and things like that. So essentially, utilizing a bank robbery, for instance, if we were to get a bank robbery call, as our officers are responding, obviously they're doing the research as far as figuring out who called in 911 or if it was a silent alarm or whatever the case is. But we also have somebody that can immediately access those cameras inside the bank and figure out if there is a bank robbery going on. Because a lot of times they'll just bump against the button. It'll be like a false alarm. Or if there is something going down, we can get real-time information quickly from that individual that's looking at those cameras and provide that to the responding officers.
We had a homicide take place
one block from our house.
a block from our house.
They requested our footage.
And the detective came in and went in,
Downloaded
saw the camera stuff that we had, and they took piece of it.
Yeah.
It was basically the guy trying to get away. He came down, went right past our house, and so he couldn't deny, if there were no other witnesses, that he was there and he was escaping or trying to escape. So
Well,
I'm sure that's.
I mean, that's kind of a testament to our partnership with the community. Right?
Yes.
So we
And-
need individuals like that are willing to provide that information to us.
What was interesting about that particular case, it was a young kid that had shot his girlfriend inside the car, is that people were on Nextdoor and Ring, and they were communicating with each other. Oh, he's over here, he's over there.
Yeah.
So they were able to track him. That was something.
So Ring actually has a program where you can actually link your Ring cameras to a database, and it allows law enforcement to go in there and take a look at that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now obviously it's all through permission.
Yeah.
So if you are part of that network, they'll tell us saying, hey, listen, this person has a Ring and they're part of the network, and then we can send a message to that individual saying, hey, this happened in your area. Would you be able to provide the information to us?
See, I didn't know
Your
that. I
data.
have a Ring camera and I had no clue.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's a
so I
pretty good
learned
program.
something. Very good.
Well, when somebody comes in for training and they have a particular skill, let's say they're an expert marksman, do you make maybe one of the duties of that person being a sniper?
Could be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
you have a
we've
SWAT
had-
team.
We do. Yep. We have a
Are
SWAT
you
team.
wanting a job, Doug?
Yes, and we get obviously a lot of individuals that were in the military and who have expert training in those type of fields. So obviously marksmanship is one of them. So we try to bring them on as obviously one of our trainers, and or obviously to see if they'd want to be a part of the SWAT team.
Wow,
sniper
very
team.
good. Very, very good.
So that was actually a question coming up. What recruitment challenges does the Clearwater Police Department face in 2025, and how are you addressing them?
So as far as the recruitment goes, I mean, it's a battle between us and all the other police departments in sheriff's offices in the Tampa Bay region, right?
Yeah.
So we're all fighting for like the best candidates. I shouldn't say fighting. That's probably
No, I know what you mean, competing.
Yeah.
Right, competing for
Yeah.
them, right? So for us, I mean, I don't necessarily think it comes down to like salary and benefits for us. it really comes down to the culture of the police department, and them recognizing the fact that, we really only want good officers here. We try to obviously get rid of the bad ones. But it is hard in the fact that obviously you've seen over the past couple of years, and I know we're in a transition period now, but over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of criticism, through the media. And like I was saying earlier, I mean, we're all human. We make mistakes. Officers are going to make mistakes.
Sure.
Judges make mistakes. Attorneys make mistakes. Talk show hosts make mistakes, right?
Sure.
So that happens. And I don't necessarily think, not to get off topic, but I don't think like we should be judged necessarily for the mistake itself, but it's how we handle the mistake afterwards, right?
Sure.
So, and we try to do the best job that we can to correct those issues.
You're always going to have some people go off the correct path. Sometimes a police officer, they may be trying to hustle a woman they pulled over,
right,
and things like that. And I know you weed those type of people out if they do get hired.
Right. So we try our best with that, but that's really the culture that we want to get out there. And that's why it's so important to have these officers or these potential, recruits come out and actually do ride-alongs with us so they can actually experience our culture.
Do you prefer people from the military or college degrees, or is that at the top of your list? Or?
Well, I mean, that's probably a better question for the chief, but my perspective is I want a very diverse group. So across the board. So I'm not just, talking about obviously race and sex. Obviously, those are huge, concerns that we want to make sure we're diverse in that area, but also from a background experience. I want the individuals that grew up in Clearwater. I was one of those. I grew up in Pinellas County. I spent a lot of my time in here in obviously Clearwater, but I think those actually make probably the best officers.
That makes sense.
Right. It's your community. You love your community. I mean, obviously and I say diverse because it is nice and refreshing bringing officers in from outside the state and other jurisdictions because they're bringing their new ideas to the police department. Right. So it's really a mixture of all that, not just military, but those that maybe have experience in counseling, those that have experience in working in the school system. I mean, all that can lead to a very, very good team, right?
That's true.
I was wondering, one of the new assignments that the police, Clearwater Police has is an old one. How are things going with the sound, with the thousands of people that show up for that?
That's
sometimes?
true. Good question.
It's going great.
Yeah.
So I can tell you I spent a lot of time with my team creating obviously incident action plans for down there. So I think we've done a pretty good job over the past couple of years as far as dialing that in. We knew we were going to have some issues obviously with parking and obviously traffic congestion and things like that. But I can tell you, every concert, we have a good group of officers that are down there directing traffic and ensuring, obviously, the safety down there at the sound. So Ruth Eckert Hall has been a great partner with us when it comes to the security side, from my perspective. So we've been working really well to make sure that those are all safe events down there.
What does the future look like for Clearwater Police Department's regional and statewide initiatives? Is there any goals or things coming up that you're trying to accomplish as a department? Or is that ongoing?
Those are always ongoing. I mean, obviously, one of our challenges right now that we're dealing with is just obviously making sure that we have a good balance on the budget for the fiscal year of 2026. Obviously, the city came across a lot of expenses this past year with the storms.
That's true.
Right. So obviously we're taking that into consideration. But besides that, all the departments locally, they work really well together. We share resources and assets together, and the sheriff and all the chiefs, they typically attend a meeting every month to make sure that we're all aligned with our priorities.
That's good.
Yeah.
What is your contact info? We're coming close to the end here, but how does someone listening right now get a hold of the department if needed?
So they can always go through our Facebook page and or obviously our webpage through myclearwater.com. And then in addition to that, they can always feel free to reach out to me at 562-4242 and ask for Major Nate Burnside. More than happy to have a conversation with anybody.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Great show.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for
we
being
really
here.
appreciate it.
Thank you
We
for
learned a
having me.
lot. We learned a lot.
Yeah.
And
I
you
think
know,
more.
you're to be commended, really. And I'm not just heaping on false praise, but at any rate, thanks for listening. On behalf of Ed Davis, Kelly, Nate Burnside, and myself, thanks for listening, and come back next week for another edition of the Kelly Show.
Thanks for listening to the award-winning Kelly Show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.